We now do over 50 sports, some pretty niche, we've got e-foiling and land yachting.
What's land yachting? Surely you need water for yachting.
All right, so Max, we have a lot to hear from you about today on the B2C side of things, especially on the kind of real world side. So working on B2C applications that actually have something to do with the real world, in your case, booking adventure experiences in the UK. So we're excited to talk about that and talk about how you got started with Adventuro and how you've grown it, how you've tried to build a community around it and kind of focus on that experience for the consumer. So to get started, I think we can just do a quick intro. Do you want to just let us all know at a very high level how you got started with Adventuro and what, how the business works?
Yeah, of course. So we started Adventuro 2 years ago now, nearly to the day, is when we went full time on it. Since I left school, really, I've been super passionate about doing all these different sorts. So I've kind of got my skydiving license years ago, scuba diving, kite surfing, mountain biking, you name it, I've kind of tried it. Whenever I've got free time, that's where I'll spend all my money and my time. I think it's just, they're so fun, but every time, without fail, it's been a complete nightmare to find the right experience. You'll miss out on so many things because they're impossible to find, or you end up on a kayaking tour that's really targeted at complete beginners or families, and that was always really frustrating. It's so easy to get to a beginner level tour, but anything beyond that where you want to progress, learn some skills, get qualified, it's quite confusing, right? Some sports, it's not obvious how to go through that path, and it's also really, it's quite old school in the way that most operators work. It's still phone and email. And, I thought there must be a better way, in kind of the classic founding story kind of way. I was a consultant when I started working on Adventuro in the travel sector. Spoke to a couple of kite surfing guides and surf instructors and things like that. And it was clear that they did value it. They thought one of the big frustrations they have right now is getting any customer that's not just a complete beginner, because that's where most guides love spending their time, right? Most people want to be teaching the slightly more advanced activities, and you just get people signing up to the wrong thing, and it's all quite confusing. So that gave it legs. So then I was like, okay, let's start building it. And this was when I was still part-time, doing it part-time while I was at BCG. So
how long was that? Like, how much overlap was there where you were kind of working on it part-time before you went full-time with it?
It was about 6 months, 6 to 9 months, something like that. Where I was working 1 day a week on it, plus weekends, and you don't get many evenings at BCG, but working weekends and 1 day a week, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, I loved doing those. Those were my favorite days of the week, and I was just looking forward to until the next day off. It's like, okay, maybe it's time to go full time on it, and which is obviously scary, right? Going from quite a well salaried job to zero.
Right, you lose the consistency, the stability, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not, not a coder by background. I'm not overly technical by training. So I was trying to build this thing by myself, which is, steep learning curve. But we got there. We got kind of MVP version ready that we could start like showing people and saying, can we get some signups before we wanted to launch?
Yep. So what's the business model? Can you just explain that at a high level?
Yeah, so I think it's like booking.com, right? It's very kind of, we take bookings through the platform, people find activities, and then they book and pay through us, and then we pay the provider minus the commission that we charge. Yeah, we're kind of trying to aim, the kind of mission is to be the booking.com of the whole adventure sports industry.
Got it. What's the typical commission on something like that? I mean, I don't even know what bookings is. I mean, I assume they probably like negotiate it with different partners, so maybe it's variable, but like, how does that work?
Yeah, so it is negotiated. It's negotiated, and some people, different activities are worth different amounts, right? Like you can't charge the same commission on an $8,000 16-week outdoor instructor course. An hour later, we get a booking for a £20 1 hour trip. So they're very different. So you can charge different.
Yeah, very different.
The commission has to be negotiated, but it's basically between 15 and 25%. But depending on kind of, we give some intro offers as well when people are new businesses, and some of the activities have low margins, right? Like things like skydiving or powerboating, you've got quite a lot of equipment there versus say a guided hike where the margins are much easier to kind of dedicate a bit more to sales and marketing.
Got it. Okay. Let's talk a bit about the ideation phase, coming up with the kind of core idea and maybe how you are going to differentiate from something like a Get Your Guide. I know you already spoke a bit about how the core idea was kind of like Get Your Guide, except we're focusing on kind of intermediate and above level like folks and experiences. Is that about right? And is there anything on more kind of the design and like architecture of the platform side that's different, or are you following pretty much the playbook of something like Get Your Guide, just with a different audience?
So there are definitely similarities, but we really try and make it much clearer for the customer and for the center. So for the customer, we try and break things down so that it's clear around what prerequisites do you need, right? Do you need any qualifications for this? What ages, what kind of fitness level do you need to be? And for center, quite a lot of our centers, one thing they struggle with is kind of articulating what the activities are, what the courses are, and all those prerequisites. So we really support them doing that. Whereas the likes of, say, Get Your Guide is much more focused around, it's a bit more self-service, kind of higher level, simpler products, which is fine, right? But that's that we're trying to fill that kind of gap in the market around where that extra information is needed. And we enable things like searching by awarding body, right? So if you're wanting to do your next step for scuba diving, right, you can search, right, filter by PADI or SSI or PSAI, and then just see, right, okay, this is the next step for me.
So for an awarding body, is there like, if you wanted to be like a professional skydiver, there would be a certain number of skydives you'd have to do to get that certification, basically?
Yeah, exactly. And we have kind of dedicated pages to say if you want to become an independent paragliding pilot, you need to first do your elementary pilot, then do your club pilot, and what are the requirements from that, and how hard are they to pass, and things like that. So we try and really break that down on the kind of the how, not just the where, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
So you don't have a software engineering background, nor a design, like kind of product design background, is that right? Or do you have some background in design?
Not formal background. I've done quite a lot of kind of system design, and in my previous role, I gave quite a lot of feedback on software and things like that, and managed kind of more of a project management, project owner kind of role, which I always really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that part of the job, and that's probably where I spend most of my time now. Now I've got a couple of developers working with me. First, I did most of the development myself, but now I focus more on the design side of things, and allow them to do the kind of the coding and bringing it to life. Yeah, so I've got a couple of team members now who are great, who really know their stuff in terms of software. So it frees me up to really focus on what's the customer design and the UI, and trying to get as much feedback as possible from customers and centers as well.
So tell me about how you first tackled that, right? Like you quit your job, or maybe this was even before you quit the job, but you decided this is something that you wanted to build. You're looking at a blank sheet of paper or, an empty Figma file or whatever it is. Like, where do you go from there? Did you try to get in touch with designers that could help you do design, or did you just start kind of freestyling stuff yourself? How did you, like, when you were at 0, how did you get from 0 to 1?
Yeah, so I knew what I wanted to build quite quickly. I think the marketplace concept is not particularly novel, so I think it's that you can just look at other experience type marketplaces, and I used a few off-the-shelf tools to kind of take some shortcuts early on, some of which we're paying the price for now and trying to kind of replace and build them custom. But we launched after I quit my job. We launched within like 11 weeks or something like that, so pretty quick to customers. We can get onto how long it took us to get some customers.
Yeah, we'll get to that shortly.
We were live after 3 months with a workable product that things could be booked and things like that, with all the automations somewhat stitched together on the back end. So yeah, we cut a lot of corners deliberately, right? Because we
have to optimize for speed a bit, right?
Exactly. We've spoken to a lot of people around, do you think this product is going to be useful? And people always kind of like nod along, right? But
right, yeah, it's great.
Sure.
It's you get much better data once people are actually got their hands on it, and strangers, do they actually use it?
And when you start asking them to pull out a credit card, right, and to actually pay for something.
Yeah, exactly. On a site that clearly has been thrown together slightly, quite quickly.
Right. So on the engineering side, how'd you find devs to work on this?
I actually found them through Upwork. They're two guys based in India I've been working with now 18 months or so. They're great. They definitely feel part of the team. They were celebrating Holi festival yesterday, and I feel like I know them really well. They know the site inside out, and we talk through all the designs together. I do have to go through some of the code and correct some spelling, but apart from that, they're pretty good.
That's interesting. I've never worked with engineers through Upwork or anything like that. Was it like you searched on there and basically you found them like right away, or was there a point where you kind of worked with some other folks and didn't really work out and you like kind of struggled to find the right people? Was it easy or was it tough?
They were third time lucky. So there was a couple of sections of the site where I knew that it would take me a long time to kind of upskill and build, and I tried a couple of other people who just weren't very good, weren't very communicative. The quality and speed of their work was poor, especially compared to the price. And these guys, they're just really first time, they kind of got it straight off the mark, and they're quite affordable.
All right, I'd like to move into first customers and marketing in this space, because I've heard a lot about how, for example, Airbnb, when they were growing, like it's a very tough game on the marketing side because you kind of invest these ad dollars and it's the type of thing that you might only do once, twice, maybe 3 times a year. So it takes a long time to see, like, is the marketing working? Is anything coming out on the other end? So how has that looked for you guys? How did you first approach getting your first customers? Was it paid ads? Was it, SEO, content on social media, short form video? Like, how did you guys tackle it at first? And what eventually took you to your first customers?
So it was actually the day we launched, we got our first booking, and I was like, this can't be real. And it turns out it was my brother being very supportive, which was hilarious, but which was great. It was really appreciative. So after that, we kind of focused a lot around paid ads. So we'd set up a Meta ads account, Google ads account, which was at this point quite new to me. I'd done a bit of slightly more high level strategic stuff in my kind of consulting role, but never been down in the weeds of setting up these actual campaigns and trying to create assets that perform. And then we knew that SEO was a long-term play, and we kind of started to build that up, but it takes months to get any traffic really at all. Which we do plug away at, and we're still plugging away at. So, it's definitely a long-term strategy. And then ads, we tried a few different campaigns. I think this was quite new when Performance Max was quite a new type of campaign that Google had just launched, which is quite a black box, and it still is a black box really. They've improved it slightly, but you create assets and try and make them perform, but you only ever get like a pretty superficial level of feedback on optimization scores back from Google, so you don't really know what you're doing wrong. But we spent a few £1,000s and got no bookings from it. Same with Meta. So that was really frustrating. And then so that we launched in end of June 2023, and that was the whole of July basically. We had one booking in July, which was my brother. And
what did he book?
He booked some kayaking on the Thames, not far from London. So it was close enough for him to travel to. It was the closest thing he could to it. And yeah, but then in August things did start to pick up, which was great. Clearly one of our campaigns is narrowed down onto 2 or 3 activities that were performing, and then actually just focused on those. We had probably, 50, 60 bookings in August that year.
Where did those come from? Did they come from the Google ads, or did they come from something else, Meta?
I think about 80% came from Google. So it was pretty good.
Okay, so it really just kind of clicked at some point.
Pretty
you guys,
Google
did you change
dependent.
anything major, or did something just like kind of work?
I think something just kind of worked. I think with the kind of Performance Max campaigns, you've got to have a minimal level of budget to be able to get a few conversions, because then it optimizes around those. And it basically sold this single kayaking tour down in Cornwall. I think out of our first, over half of our bookings that month were in this for this single product, and we had about we didn't have many on the product platform that right then, but we had about 100 products on the platform, and we were just selling a lot of this single one, which is quite funny. Good, we would take it, but and then things kind of steadied for the first 2 weeks of September, and then things dropped off a cliff because it's quite a seasonal business. But we didn't realize it was that seasonal. It's not that seasonal. Last year wasn't. It was not that seasonal. But the first year it kind of just went to zero overnight, and we were just like, oh no, I thought we were onto something. So it was really kind of an emotional roller coaster those first 2 or 3 months of absolutely nothing, burning through cash. Then okay, we think we're onto something, and then again nothing. So then we were like, okay, is this winter done? Are we done for the year? So Then we quickly built out gift voucher functionality in like 3 weeks, and we we're like, okay, we need to get this ready for Christmas. That was our, which did actually go quite well. We sold a few £1,000s worth of gift vouchers in the first year, which doesn't, it won't keep the lights on, but it was certainly a good success for our first initial launch.
So as far as those first ads, were you running ads on the specific like kayaking tour and maybe a bunch of other things you had, or were you running kind of general ads just for the platform like broadly?
Yeah, so we were running ads for, and I think this is where we went wrong in the first year, was we were running quite specific ads. They were, we had basically one ad per activity, per landing page, and we'd upload all the images for that page, and it didn't really work. We got quite a lot of clicks through, especially from the display side of Performance Max, but it didn't enable us to deliver all of our products in an efficient way to the right customer. What we found much more effective is kind of dynamic search campaigns, where you can kind of feed in all of your activities into Google, and then it can divert traffic a little bit more freely. We found that to be a lot more effective than individual ads on individual activities, which also becomes a complete nightmare to manage as well. As soon as you have thousands of products on the platform, so it would be impossible to manage campaigns for each.
Right, that's counterintuitive though. I'd expect that something like a very specific keyword that's like, if someone's already searching for a kayaking tour in their particular town or whatever, and you have an ad on that, I'd expect that to actually be better performing. But for you guys, it worked out the opposite, where that actually wasn't converting, and it was the more general kind of dynamic approach that works. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and I think part of that comes down to the budget point again. So around, if you split your budgets too much and have low budgets, then it just doesn't have enough leeway to kind of learn where the conversions are coming from.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's obviously the customer side, but how did you get your first supplier to list an activity with you?
Yeah, our first supplier was Blue Marlin Dive School in Hampshire, I think. Very nice team. We basically came up with a list of kind of targets, and started kind of pinging off emails and seeing who respond. So that's really Kate's job. So Kate's my co-founder, and she's responsible for getting as many people onto the platform as possible, and negotiating commissions and doing the onboarding process. We had a couple of people that we'd been speaking to throughout the ideation phase, like kind of just doing us a favor, just giving us some time. But the first, I mean, we lowballed it in terms of commission. So our first partner, it really was a steal for them. But yeah, we got 10 partners before launch, and a couple of them were quite big activity centers. So that was great, because it gave us a bit of a spread of activities and made us feel like if you went on the homepage, there was more to look at than just 10 activities. There was more like 50 or 60, but it was still pretty sparse.
How many experiences more or less does each supplier bring to the table? Are we talking like under 10 in most cases, or some of them bring a higher range?
Yeah, so average is like 7 or 8, I think, 6 or 7 in that ballpark. But they really vary. We've got lots of a lot of suppliers was just 1 or 2. 1's rare, 2 or 3 is normal. But then we've got some big activity centers for certain guides who do a lot of different certifications. So if you think about paddle sports, there's probably 40 different paddle certifications, which quite a lot of our instructors do. So there's a real range. I think the biggest we'll bring on that we're currently bringing on at the moment, it has around 80 listings, but I'd say the average is around 10, just under.
Cool.
So let's talk engagement. So you found your first customers. You figured out how to kind of slowly get new people coming in the door and making bookings. How do you keep them in the community and kind of keep them in the system so that you can sell them again a couple months down the line when they want to do their next?
Yeah, so it's something we've really worked on over the past 6-9 months. Is how do we keep those customers engaged? How do we kind of make sure that they're booking through Adventuro again, right? So part of that has been the loyalty program, which we just launched. So only launched last week or the week before. So we haven't yet seen the kind of the fruits of that. But the more points people earn, the kind of bigger discounts they get. So hopefully that will provide quite a lot of that. We've had some really great feedback on the initial email launch and how it looks and things. It's quite simple, just earn points for more you spend and taking different actions on the platform.
And that's all on Adventuro. It doesn't have anything to do with like the partners necessarily. It's just that you guys will out of your pocket will fund, you know, anything that people earn through these loyalty points. So if I earn a certain number of points, I might get a free experience or something, and that's paid for by you guys, and the partners still get their payout from you. Basically, is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. So it means that we've always got a commission to play with in terms of offers,
right?
And discounts and things like that to keep customers engaged. But that always comes from our pocket and our profit margins. One thing we spent a lot of time on last year is building out a model for and kind of an algorithm to kind of make sure to compare different activities with each other, so that we can give people recommendations automatically based on what they've booked. So if you've booked a kind of beginner kayaking lesson down in Dorset, we know that we can then suggest, okay, what about these other 10 kayaking lessons that might be a little bit more challenging nearby, right? So you might go from a sit on top beginner level kayaking tour, and we can say, what about this 3-hour sea kayaking qualification, intro qualification? And we've seen some good engagement with that. You know, it has quite a high click-through rate and things like that, which is great. And we integrate that into both on the pages. So if you see it on the kind of product pages, if you scroll down, it's just similar activities. Hopefully most of those will be relevant. If they're really not relevant, it's probably because we don't have many things in that area.
You need a certain volume, right, before your recommendations can be really good.
Yeah, exactly. And it works really well in places like, you know, Cornwall or the Lake District, or, you know, places where we've got really high density. You can see they're all kind of similar activities that if you were looking to compare, it really provides that comparison value. And we use that kind of model, a slightly tweaked version to abandoned cart emails and things like that, which again has proven pretty effective. So there are our main kind of avenues really of kind of keeping customers engaged. Things we're building out this year are you know, things to enable people to track their skills and qualifications on the site. So once they've done an activity or done a qualification, they can, you know, log that, and then we use Adventuro as a bit more of a you know, logbook and, you know, gamification type thing where you can really see that progression across sports as well. You know, well, that's why we set it up, right? Is to help people go beyond the beginner experience, go beyond what's easy, and really push themselves and develop it more confident, more independent in their sports. Yeah,
that's really interesting, I think, because I mean, these types of outdoor, like, adventure sports, this is the kind of thing that I feel like is pretty, like, it's a really good thing to build a community around, right? Because, first of all, a lot of these activities are kind of involve more than one person. So if you don't have anyone else who you know that's kind of interested in doing these things with you, then it's harder to get into it, right? So that's one piece. And then also like, you see this with a lot of fitness apps, right? Where they do also this kind of journey where it's like, I'm not a runner, but I want to get started running. What's an app that can kind of keep me motivated and give me like a plan where I can run, you know, a mile today and maybe 2 miles next week or whatever, and kind of work my way up and get rewarded somehow for the progress that I make. And this is like that, except it's even more fun, because who likes running when you could go for a crazy hike or you could go skydiving or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely an area that I think now we've got the marketplace functionality down, and, you know, the booking. Well, there's still lots of improvement that we can make, right? But I think this is where we can start to really focus on building that community and getting people to, like, we want to really push our community to engage with their own sports and keep them developing, keep them learning, keep them pushing on to the next qualification. And that's currently some functionality we haven't got, but it's in the works. And I think that's where the community will go from, this is a nice tool, to being actually really excited about using it, especially the kind of more enthusiast level people.
Totally. How do you think about building the community? Is this something you want to build pretty much on your website, on the platform, or is this something you want to have, like, maybe certain badges and flows and you know, awards and accreditations and things on the website, but then couple it with some community elsewhere, like a Discord or a Slack or something along those lines? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, we've started to grow our, you know, social media following, and I think that's definitely an area of where we will kind of keep trying to grow that community and getting people engaged in that kind of content, and where we'll probably find new people. But once we've got people kind of engaged, we want to manage a bit more of the community on platform, especially around earning badges and tracking their skills. So I was saying, we've got a really strong B2B community of all of our guides, instructors, activity schools, and they're highly kind of engaged in what they do, super passionate, and we've even had a few of our guides book onto each other's courses through Adventuro, which is really great to see, right? So we've got like mountain bike coaches booking on with more experienced mountain bike coaches to kind of really raise their game and things. And I think that's an area where we've already got a strong community. They're super engaged with us and our brand. We know them mostly on a first name basis, and I think we could play a more central role in connecting them and making sure that we're being an advocate for the adventure sports space and industry, making sure that we can support them if they want to add in new sports to their business, or launching a new product line. Like, how do they do that? And we already do this one-to-one, but I think this is where something like a Discord or Slack channel or some method where they can speak to each other would be really great to set up. I think this is one area where over the next few weeks, when we travel around, we're going to try and visit as many centers as we can, which would be, I'm really looking forward to. I think I haven't seen enough of these people in person. I've spoken to them all on the phone and WhatsApp, and I've not visited them in their kind of place of business. So I think that would be really fun. Get to put some faces to names and see what they want more out of it. Like, we've got lots of ideas around matching jobs or qualifications and things like that, but it'd be great to see what they want out of the Adventuro community.
And that's a big potential angle for you, right? Because it could be that each of these bigger like suppliers, partners, they could have their own kind of mini communities, maybe on WhatsApp, or just like folks who go there frequently and they kind of know them. They could have a little community there, and if you can kind of go one by one to each of those partners and hook into those communities and get everyone from their communities to join your Discord or Slack or whatever it is, then you can basically hijack all those partner communities, and that can be a mechanism that you can grow on the B2C side without like having to run ads or deal with content and all that stuff. You can just kind of go direct to your partner's existing clients. So that's really interesting. I think the Discord thing could be super valuable, just because you could monitor what kinds of things are happening there to get a sense for what you might want to build in platform, right? Because if you see on Discord, for example, a lot of people are using it to like make new friends and book an experience together with like new people, then okay, that's something we can add some kind of meetup style thing to Adventuro, where people can book stuff like with other users potentially. So you might be able to get a lot out of that, right? Just like having that community in the Discord that you can market to directly. You can observe their behavior. You can see, like, talk to them directly. What do they want from you as a platform? So it definitely seems like a productive thing to be working on this year.
Yeah, what we take quite a lot of inspiration from individual sports. Some sports are much more sophisticated in this area than others. If you think about, I don't know, scuba diving, for example, it's reasonably mature, and there are some great subreddits and Discord and all the rest of it where people are talking about gear and finding friends to go diving with and things like that. Whereas other sports, there just isn't anything, and I think we could play a really kind of important role in kind of bridging that gap, filling those gaps, and also doing that cross sport piece. Because most people who love one adventure sport, they'll love multiple.
Even with the established ones, the mature ones like scuba diving or something, you still have that angle of like the local, right? Because I can go to the subreddit of scuba diving and talk to people from all over the world. Having a community in my local area that are interested in that, I feel like that still always has some kind of more value, right? Because you can meet people that are interested in the same thing, that are actually like relatively close to you, and that you could meet up with in person and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And we've started working with quite a few clubs now, so there's like sailing clubs or diving clubs, and listing their kind of intro activities onto Adventuro, and they see it as kind of a nice way to get members. And we're kind of staying quite close to them because we want to know how we can serve those kind of clubs more proactively and add more things to the product that actually their members would find value. And as you say, like, get all of their members onto the platform. Maybe if they manage their communication or their fees through Adventuro, that could be a great way to kind of engage people and make them feel a part of something slightly bigger, but with, as you say, with that local.
Yeah.
Do you have a system for the partners to go into as well, like an actual coded software system that they can view bookings through?
Yeah, so they got their own dashboard.
Right.
It's probably the more sophisticated part of the platform is the bit that you can't see as a customer. Yeah. So they're managing their bookings and managing their activities, and how do they set up their pages and communicate. They can communicate directly with customers and things like that. It's I'd say that's pretty powerful, and people have already we only launched that a few months ago now, couple of months. January. Where are we at? Yeah, and that feedback's been good for that. But now that's given us quite a lot of the infrastructure now of the kind of sophisticated tech to now build off that. We've gone from very much away from our MVP. We replaced the whole thing into a kind of slightly more scalable and something that we can build on in quite a modular way, which is great. So that's definitely where we will host all of our slightly more in-depth functionality going forward.
Random question, but on the back end, how much of this is like just code that you have to talk to your engineers to make changes to, and how much, because you had mentioned there were some kind of, let's say, hacky integrations running in the back end. Like, do you have any of this running through like Zapier or these sorts of like automation tools, or is this all just like running on code on a server somewhere?
It's a real mix. So we've got quite a lot of code-based APIs, but then we also use a lot of make.com, which is I don't know if you used it. It's basically Zapier, but cheaper, I think. And I highly recommend it. It's very great software. A lot of our different systems talk to each other through that. So, for example, our email notifications go through that. When we update our accounting software, that goes through that. Different tracking elements, quite a lot of the APIs go through that. It's been really helpful because it means that you can get something up and running really quickly, but it's also on scalable tech, right? So it doesn't matter if you put in one email through or 100,000 in a day, like it works just fine. So yeah, I think we would have been a lot slower without that. I think we've replaced some of the kind of key core functionality that can't fail in our own code, but any kind of system to system stuff, we just put it on there.
Cool. I was going to talk a bit more about the like retention stuff. We talked a bit about community, but on the retention side, have you guys iterated on getting people to leave reviews to try to kind of fill the platform up with more reviews? I know that goes a long way towards getting people to book, right? Because if you don't see many reviews, then maybe you don't feel the trust that you might think you need to make a booking.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of more reviews recently than we had done before, because we rebuilt the kind of the notifications and the way people input it. Obviously, we made people log in and things like that, whereas now it's much easier. It's like one click on an email and then you can click submit, so it's much easier, which means that we've got a lot higher review rate. So it means that, as you say, we want to be the platform where people come to compare and trust book things. We did debate whether to kind of pull in TripAdvisor reviews or Google reviews to kind of shortcut that. And it is still tempting, right? Because I think most activities on our site have got like 10 reviews or under. Only a few have above that. If they've got their TripAdvisor page has 100, it's very tempting to kind of like, should we just bring that in? But you want to build that up yourself, right? I don't think people would review on our site if they didn't see where their review went. So we want to build that up for the future.
There's a piece about balancing sales versus useful content. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I was thinking about kind of, it's mostly around email marketing this, and partly around socials, around how much do you push your product versus how much do you try and build a community and engage people. And I think as an early stage business, you do get pushed. Well, I think you push yourself right to hit sales figures, and therefore the instinct is to just push your products rather than write lots of useful articles around the best places to learn to scuba dive and useful content that people will engage with and therefore feel more of a part of a community. So I think it's that long-term versus short-term trade-off, right? And people are not going to engage in a community that are just trying to sell stuff. So that's been something we've been trying to balance.
So as far as the range of different activities you can do from the website, from what I can tell, it's like, let's see, biking, bushcraft, climbing, it's like 5 or 6 there. Was it like 20-ish types of activities?
We now do over 50 sports, some pretty niche, we've got e-foiling and land yachting.
What's land yachting? Surely you need a water for yachting.
So land yachting is like a buggy. It's like a little trike buggy thing with a sail. It looks quite fun. I've never done it, but it looks really fun. Yeah.
That does sound fun. We'll definitely Google that.
I see. It's like a little buggy with a sail.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. So as far as the number, so there's like 50, around 50. That's a small enough number that you guys could build like a unique set of badges or a unique track of like from beginner to intermediate to advanced to expert or something for each of those if you wanted to. Do you think that's something that long term you might want to see, where just how like a fitness app that could be focused on running will have a specific track for like wanting to run a marathon or a half marathon or something? You guys might have some sort of like almost gamified track for hiking or for diving or for kayaking or for land yachting or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is definitely an area that we want to build. It comes down to some sports have this clear progression, right? Scuba diving, again, is like you're either an open water scuba diver, advanced open water, or a dive master. It's very concrete and discrete, whereas most sports don't have that, like mountain biking, right? Like it's very, most mountain bikers have no idea how good they are, really,
Right.
like compared to it. So coming up with some kind of scale where you can earn badges, right? How do you jump, over 10 feet? Do you feel comfortable going down this graded run at 30 miles an hour? Those kinds of things could be really fun and interesting to both try and write down and codify and see if people agree with the levels that we come up with. But then actually going around and trying to achieve them. So yeah, definitely is something we want to build out.
Yeah.
And for those sports that really don't have that kind of certification type system in there, I guess that's quite a good opportunity for you guys to almost be that, or be the start of it. It's like, well, how good are you at mountain biking? Well, I can look at my Adventuro profile and say, I've got to this level. And then that's quite a nice bit of marketing for you guys, really.
Yeah, totally. I don't know if you guys have come across Playtomic, just like a paddle and tennis app.
I think so.
But yeah, you should look it up. I use it quite a lot to book paddle courts and things. And it's doing really well. I mean, some of their interface needs a lot of work, I think, but they have a really nice scoring system where you score yourself and you get skills. When you play more matches, you go up levels and things like that. And also when you play against other players, if I'm a level 2 and someone's a level 3 and I beat them, then my score goes up a lot more than if I beat a level 1, for example. So that's, we could definitely take inspiration from that as well, because I think their scoring system is quite nifty.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I think you'll learn a lot if you can just get as many of these people as you can into a Discord or something. I don't know if I don't know if it's Discord is the best. It depends kind of on the community. If this is like, folks on the older side, maybe not Discord, maybe something else, but it all depends. But I think just getting everyone in one place, you can learn so much, because like in my experience with my first company, we started Discord pretty early, and it was one of those things that just revealed so much about how people were using the product, what kinds of things made them excited. Like we would post about something and we wouldn't expect it to be exciting at all. We'd just kind of mention something kind of off the cuff and they'd be like, what, you guys are thinking about building that? That would be awesome, whatever. And it's just a huge learning experience. If you guys build that later in the year, I want to hear about how it goes.
I'll let you know. I think we definitely will. Even just a WhatsApp group or something super simple, right? Like
WhatsApp, especially because these folks probably all are using WhatsApp or have WhatsApp, right? So you don't have to make them get some new app or something if they're not on Discord.
Yeah. I think most of our centers and our B2B partners, they're not not inside in front of laptops all day. They are mostly, on their phone 5 minutes between canyoning sessions. So,
right. Is there anything on your mind as far as the business that you might want to workshop? Might be on marketing or growth or whatever, just anything you might want to bounce some ideas around about?
I think on the growth side, we're currently debating which countries to expand into, and which is quite an interesting conundrum for us. Like we've got a UK audience, how do we take them with us, or do we just try to start again? Do we try and smooth out our seasonality by going Southern Hemisphere, going as far away as you can from the UK? There's the language thing, there's the functionality in the platform. So that's something that we're grappling with right now. And I think it's not a particularly high risk decision, because I think it's something where we can, if sales go well, they go well. If they don't, then we just try somewhere else. It's not like we have to invest in a physical footprint. But that's definitely something that we're currently debating for this year.
Charlie, what do you think about that? I'm curious, what's your take on international expansion versus wait until a bigger community is formed in the UK?
I guess what resonated with me when you said, can we kind of take your customers with you, would seem like a much lower risk option.
Yeah.
The places that you recognize that people like to do activities in, like when I was younger, I used to do a lot of climbing, and around sort of Alicante area in Spain used to be quite a bit of a hotspot for that. So I would imagine there'd be a lot of climbers in the UK that are very aware of that. And so if there was a way for them to do a qualification in Spain instead of the UK, that would be quite an easy win for them to just go over to Spain to do that instead, and might sort of be a bit of a foothold for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Spain is definitely on our radar because of those close links to the UK. We've just brought on a Malaga kite surfing and kayaking shop where I learned kite surfing, wing surfing.
I think I saw that on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So
great
falling
people,
off
really
a few
nice. Yeah. So, and you go walk around Malaga and half the people are British. So there's certain sports, especially around the wind sports, kite surfing, climbing, as you mentioned, mountain biking, road biking, so popular, especially over winter in parts of those kind of southern Spain regions. So definitely where we're thinking of kind of how do we do that? Because we've just brought on quite a lot of trips as well onto the platform. So multi-day sports-focused climbing trips or surf trips. Again, how do we keep that people engaged from just learning it, doing a lesson to a full sports life cycle, really?
Yeah, I think I'm with Charlie as far as that. Like when you first said international expansion, my first thought was like way too early. You need to just double down on the UK until the community is like significantly more dense, because the UK is really big, so there's probably a decent sized market there, right? But then I think that reaction is more around trying to build new communities elsewhere. Like I think I stand by that initial reaction as far as the community, but if you can take the community that you're growing out of British folks and just give them more opportunities to go and do cool stuff abroad, that makes total sense. Because there's, first of all, you make more money, right? Because an international trip is going to be more expensive, and so your cut will probably be more significant. So that's, you can just offer more expensive trips, right? So that sounds good for the business. And then also more options is just better. If you can, more stuff for you to market, more stuff for you to sell, it makes sense. So I think that'd be my take as well, is that makes sense to do. Just I would be careful with the like trying to grow multiple communities at once, especially in different countries, because that can get super messy super fast. But yeah,
Yeah,
fun.
no, for sure. I think what's quite nice is quite a lot of our partners, they'll run a few trips a year as well. So a lot of them already sell through our site. So, for example, they got a surf school in Newquay and Cornwall or whatever, and then they'll have 3 trips to Spain in autumn. We're bringing on quite a lot of those, and people are starting to realise that we're quite a good channel for that, which is really nice.
For you guys, I guess being more of like an expert course probably works better overseas as well, taking your existing audience with you. If you've got loads of beginners, the chances of them going to Spain to do like a kayaking course, whereas just down the road, they'll probably just go down the road. But an expert is probably actually looking for that more than what they know in the UK. They've probably done everything already.
Yeah, and one where you want to be confident that it's pitched to the right level, right? You don't want to travel across Europe to end up on a kayaking holiday that's really boring or kind of quite patronizing. We have this with sailing trips. This is super common, right? Where if you're a keen sailor and then something's billed as like a week's sailing, but it's not really. It's kind of island hopping around Croatia, going to different bars. That might be what you want, right? But for a lot of people who are into their sailing, it's really not what they're going for. So that's something that we kind of differentiate on.
Sure.
So you're big on these sorts of extreme sports, let's say adventure sports. What was this like during COVID? Like, did the whole thing just died for 2 years or something and then started to come back? Has it come back stronger than ever, or is it still kind of weak relative to what it was as far as like the demand for these sorts of things? Like the people that maybe you knew that also enjoyed going on these sorts of activities. How did COVID affect it?
So COVID was before our time as Adventuro, but talking to our partners, they were. It was a really tough time for the industry. I think quite a lot of the businesses are not as formalized as others, so it's harder to get loans and grants and things like that. And it definitely cleared out a lot of providers, especially the smaller one-person provider who might be doing it more as a part-time hobby. A lot of them left the industry, so that was kind of tough. But demand-wise, it came back so strong in 2021, 2022, when people were still scared of international travel. People were super conscious about their health. So sports in general just saw a massive resurgence, and that has largely continued through to now. I think, was it last year we had pretty poor weather basically the whole of summer, so that dampened it a little. But apart from that, the growth has been pretty impressive. From, I think it's well above its 2019 pre-pandemic peak. I think, yeah, it solidified the positions of quite a few of the larger players and the larger businesses, and cleared out quite a lot of the kind of hobbyists. But I think we're getting a new wave of them through now into the market. So I don't think it has had lasting scars in anything. I think it's kind of pushed people into their hobbies a little bit more, which is a good thing.
All right, I think that's everything. Do you want to leave folks with any final thoughts? / where can they hear more about you, Adventuro? What, any links you want to plug?
Yeah, check us out. It's adventuro.com. So that's adventure, but with an O on the end instead of an E. Yeah, and follow us on socials. We're really trying to build this community. We're still a small team. If you've got questions, if you go on our platform and you've got any feedback, then just let us know. Just go through to the live chat. It comes to my phone. That's how big a team we are. So, but yeah, follow along our journey. It's certainly been interesting so far, and hopefully it continues to be so. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Max. Anyone interested in adventure sports knows where to go.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good to chat.
Thanks, Max.
Alrighty.